Hi Dragonflies. Do you have trouble getting nice, strong darks in your watercolors? Or do you run into trouble trying to create shadows on objects of certain colors? Yellow is a particularly challenging one. Here are a few tips that might help. The first one is to make sure that the paint that you're using to load your brush is the correct consistency. People sometimes refer to this as the consistency of heavy cream. What you're looking for is paint that is as thick as you can make it and still have it flow. Look for that little bead to collect at the bottom of the wash. Once you have that heavy cream consistency paint, avoid over diluting it while mixing to get the color that you want. A common difficulty when mixing colors is rinsing your brush and not blotting it dry and bringing back a lot of water and not a lot of color. So as you mix, you're gradually diluting your paint. One way to avoid this problem is to create two puddles with the colors you're going to mix that are both at that heavy cream consistency, and then combine from those without rinsing your brush. Once you have the color you want at that heavy cream consistency, be sure to load your brush often. Sometimes people run into trouble getting really dark darks because they start with that heavy cream consistency, but they try to spread the paint too far. I was able to take the same amount of paint and cover all this territory with still a reasonably even wash, but because I didn't reload my brush, it's going to be a lighter color. If your first wash isn't dark enough, you can often darken it up to a point by glazing another layer. Notice how with this paint, 2 layers darkened the color, but 3 layers, we actually start to get that shiny appearance from too much gum arabic, which is also what happens if you try to use the paint straight out of the tube in many cases. That straight out of the tube consistency paint sometimes works for a single calligraphic brushstroke, but it usually does not work to cover a larger area. Okay, so this all sounds great if you're working with a dark blue or a dark brown, but what if you're working with a red or a yellow that isn't very dark even when you use that heavy cream consistency? Well, it turns out that in most cases, the dark part of a yellow object is actually some form of green or orange, or if it's dark enough, some form of a brown. And the darker parts of reddish objects are also often browns or some sort of a violet. What often works well for these shadow colors is to add some of the complement or something close to the complement. So suppose I have an object that's this color yellow and I want to show an area that's in shadow. Then what often works well is to add a tiny bit of violet, which is the complement of yellow. If the shadow area that I'm painting has more of a greenish tone, I can make this complement lean towards a blue-violet. If it has more of a brownish or reddish tone or orangish tone, I can make it lean more toward a reddish-violet. Sometimes it takes just a tiny bit of the complement, so start with just a little. You can always add more later. So if you've been struggling to mix darks with your watercolors or get suitable shadow colors, give some of these ideas a try and hopefully they'll help. See you next time. Happy painting.